Is that this House agrees with the Lords in their amendments 23B and 23C. Rushanara. Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It's a great honour to be speaking from this side of the House, and I speak on behalf of myself and the member for Aberavon, my honourable friend. I would like to begin by paying tribute to my predecessor, the member for Feltham and Heston, and I'm also grateful to my right honourable friends, the member for Barking, the member for Hodge Hill, and the member for Rhondda, and many others across the House who've played such an important role in getting this bill to this point. By the government's own definition, economic crime refers to the broad category of activity involving money, finance and assets, the purpose of which is unlawfully obtained to a profit or advantage for the perpetrator or cause loss to others. It poses a threat to our country's national security, our institutions, our economy, and causes serious harm to our citizens and society. The failure to act allows criminals to benefit from the proceeds of their crime and fund further criminality. And in the most extreme, what we have seen is funding of organised crime groups, terror activity, drug dealing, and people trafficking. Economic crime has many victims, and for too long, the government has turned a blind eye to corruption and dirty money, allowing Russian illicit finance to flood into our country and let Putin's cronies stash ill-gotten gains and even recycle the proceeds of crime into luxury properties across our cities. More than two-thirds of English and Welsh properties held by foreign shell companies don't report their true owners. Research by the London School of Economics, Warwick University shows that the register of overseas entities is not fully effective, and for 71% of those properties, essential information about their beneficial owners remains missing or publicly inaccessible despite the register of overseas territories. It's not enough, and we need more action. And after the Grenfell Tower fire disaster, Mr. Deputy Speaker, which claimed 72 lives, we have learnt more about freeholders hiding behind offshore trusts and labyrinth company structures to make it impossible for leaseholders to uncover who is responsible for replacing dangerous flammable cladding. Hundreds of thousands of people across our country are living in fear of Grenfell-style fires in unsafe blocks, while some of the owners hide abroad under company structures that help them to dodge paying for replacement cladding by setting up companies and trusts in overseas territories lacking transparency. Our government and our citizens must be able to access information about who owns what and where responsibility lies. This legislation is long overdue, and as far back as 2018, the then Security Minister, the Honourable Member for Wyre and Preston North, was reported to have said that the BBC hit series McMafia was very close to the truth and condemned the impunity with which some of these people operated and the brutality of it. He promised new powers and to crack down on gangsters and criminals and corrupt members of the global elite, and with the full force of the government to be used against them. While some steps have been taken, it took the Russian invasion of Ukraine for the government to step up and introduce further legislation. The government has delayed legislation for too long, and in that time, money has been lost, economic crime has persisted, and the UK economy has once again lost out. Shamefully, our city, our capital, has taken on the reputation of cleaning up lots of the world's dirty money. The illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine has merely highlighted this shameful situation that campaigners have long been decrying about. And for years, the UK has been awash with cash from kleptocrats and oppressive regimes. And Transparency International highlighted that £6.7 billion worth of property has been brought using suspicious wealth. I recently, Mr. Deputy Speaker, visited Ukraine, where I witnessed the terrible results of the Russian aggression on the civilian population, where they were constantly living in fear of airstrikes. It's sickening to think that the people who are responsible for these atrocities today could be enjoying the luxury apartments and houses in Belgravia and Mayfair just a stone's throw away from this house. And it's not just the Kremlin. As the Times newspaper reported, over 200 million of the UK property is owned by the children of notorious rulers and their henchmen from failed states and autocracies across the world. And the cost of economic crime is as much as £350 billion. There is much to do, and law enforcement has got to be backed up. We must have the transparency that justice deserves and send a clear signal that there cannot be dark corners where kleptocrats can stash their money. And this bill is a starting point, not an end point. We will be holding the government's feet to the fire to ensure that this legislation makes an actual difference. Crucially, tackling economic crime requires supporting the key institutions such as the National Crime Agency, HMRC, CPS and others. And it's not enough just to introduce legislation. We need enforcement. We need these institutions to be properly resourced and supported. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we've had the FinCEN files, Panama Papers, Paradise Papers, and numerous committee inquiries, including the committee I served in, Treasury Committee, over a number of years. And yet we've seen incremental change, which is very frustrating for many across this House. Ensuring ownership of UK property by overseas companies requires further action. Compensation of victims of economic requires further action. There remain huge gaps, but we welcome the changes the government has made in relation to SLAPs, which a number of colleagues have worked on. We support amendments 151B and C and welcome Lord Garnier's focus on the failure to prevent in non-micro entities. We support Amendment 1.161 amendment by Lord Fawkes, and as he has explained, the specific wording should be the court should not normally make an order that any costs of proceeds relating to the case with which section applies. My honourable friend, the member for Barking, has made amendments which will be which has been accepted, and we support that amendment on that basis. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this bill is almost over the line, improved from where the ministers started, and there's much to do, and we very much hope that we can ensure that enforcement takes place once the legislation is in the statute books, so that dirty money can be exposed, that the seizing of illegal assets can happen, and those who are guilty of economic crime, action is taken against them. We must not have further delay in pushing for transparency and action in tackling economic crime.
Sir Robert Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. This is an important bill.